Yay! It's time for another JUKAI and ANGO season, and we're all set to go. And I got all my best, well, I don't want to say best because everyone in the Sangha is wonderful, but I got all my friendly faces here, and so lovely. A couple of our regular members are away. Some folks are ill. Today's sitting is dedicated to Danny, who's a little under the weather, and she also requested that today be dedicated to some other folks she knows who are not feeling so well, including a small child. So today is dedicated to them and for them and people everywhere and all families who are facing health issues today. Let's see. ANGO begins. JUKAI begins officially, even though we're kind of a few hours early for some of you, but you know, that's fine. I mean, it's Saturday here, and it's a rainy Saturday. It's the last day of summer. The students back to school after this weekend, and it's getting a little cool here too. So it's nice to be in the nice, warm and dry Zendo because it's a little chill outside, and the rain is lovely. That is for sure. It's beautiful. Sorry, admiring the rain. It's really nice. All right, are we all ready to go? You guys can hear okay? Good. If you've been here before, you know what to do, and if it's your first time, just follow along. Let's go. Let's go, ANGO.
Maka hanya haramita shingyo kanji zaibo satsugyo jin hanya haramita jisho kengo onkai kudoi saiku yakusha rishi shiki fui kuku fui shiki shiki sokuze kuku sokuze shiki yu sogyo shiki yakubu nyo ze shari shi ze shoku soku shoku metsufu kufu yofu zofu genze koku chumu shiki muju sogyo shiki mu gen irize shinimu shiki shoko misoku homu gen kainai shimu shiki kai mu myo yakumu myo jinnai shimuro shi yakumuro shi jinbuku shumetsu domo chi yakumu tokui mo shoto kobo dai sakai anya haramita koshin mukei ge mukei komu kufu onri saiten domu soku gyone hansan ze shobutsue hanya haramita kotoku anokuta sanyaku sambodai kochi hanya haramita zedai inshu zedai myo shuze muyo shuze mutoro shuno yoi saiku shinjitsu fukoko setsu hanya haramita shusoku setsu shuwatsu yate yate hara so yate goyi sowaka hanya shingyo. The identity of relative and absolute. The mind of the great sage of India is intimately conveyed west and east, while human faculties are both wise and dull, in the way there are no northern or southern ancestors. The subtle source shines clear in the light, the branching stream glows in the dark. To be attached to things is primordial illusion. To encounter the absolute is not yet enlightenment. All the spheres, every sense and field, intermingle even as they shine upon, interacting even as they merge, yet keeping their places in expressions of their own. Sight differ primarily in shape and character, and sounds in harsh or soothing tones. The dark makes all words one, the brightness distinguishes good and bad phrases. The four elements return to their true nature, as a child turns to its mother. Fire is hot, water is wet, wind moves, and the earth is dense. I am form, ear and sound, nose and smell, tongue and taste, the sweet and sour, each independent of the other, like leaves that come from the same root. And though leaves and root must go back to the source, both root and leaves have their own uses. Light is also darkness, but do not think of it as darkness. Darkness is light, do not see it as light. Light and darkness are not one, not two, like the foot before and the foot behind in walking. Each thing has its own being, which is no different from its place and function. The relative fits the absolute as a box and its lid. The absolute meets the relative, like two arrow points that touch in midair. Hearing this, simply perceive what is, make no criterion. If you do not see the way, you do not see it even as you walk upon it. Walking forward in the way, you draw no nearer, progress no further. One who fails to see this truth is mountains and rivers away. Listen, those who would perceive this subtle matter. Live well your time by night and day. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, reality existing right here now, in residing the heart of the perfection of great wisdom sutra and the identity of relative and absolute. We dedicate our sincere efforts to Shakyamuni Buddha, Honor One, the historical Buddha and teacher, and to those ancestral teachers, Eihei Dogen Honor One, Soji Keizen Honor One, all successive Honor Ones up until Suigaku Rempo Honor One and Gudo Wafu Honor One, and to all other Honor Ones throughout history, male and female Honor Ones whose names have been forgotten or left unsaid. We also dedicate these efforts to the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, to all awakened ones and teachers in all places and times. We especially seek tranquility and well-being for all creatures now suffering or ill in health. May they be serene through all their ills. May their lives be at peace and wisdom pervade the darkness of ignorance. We dedicate our hopes and aspirations to all victims of war and violence and natural events, to the injured and to all families touched by these tragedies, to the healing of hatred in all countries and among all peoples, to the wisdom and compassion of our world leaders, to the peace of the world and harmony of all beings. Thus let the harmful effects of words, thoughts, and actions be dispelled, and compassion bloom in perpetual spring. May we all realize and live the enlightened way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time. All Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Maham, Prashnam, Paramita.
Zazen? if you have your microphone on, would you turn it on? Can't hit. Zazen? will have a long kinhin. We will now have a little talk, followed by Zazen. Kyonin, we're going to recite the verse to open the Sutras. All right.
The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Well, lovely. Today we begin our 11th tree leaf Jukai and ANGO season, and it's a celebration. The actual celebration of Jukai is in January, but the whole road is, well, a party. A serious party. There's a lot of work to be done, but you know, you're going to hear me compare this to many worldly celebrations like a birthday or a wedding, and those take a lot of work too. You know, anyone here who's ever gotten married know you got to pick out the invitation, you got to invite the guests, you got to choose your shoes. Boy, it's tough. Well, this too is going to take many weeks and months of serious work, but it's worth it. Now, what's it all about? That's the question. And that's what I'd like to talk a little bit about today. We're going to look at Master Dogen's Shobogenzo Jukai in a moment. And that was his writing of his approach, his sacred interpretation of the Jukai. And I'm going to tell you that the Jukai can have many meanings, and so can ANGO. You know, Zen, things are just not taken one way. And we say, for example, that Jukai and the precepts are a vow to keep going, to do good, to help the sentient beings, and to not do harm. But it's also the universe, you know, like Zazen is just sitting there, but it's also the universe. And so there are many ways to look at this. Somebody asked me, why bother to take Jukai? Does it make one an official Buddhist? And I said, yes, but no. I mean, not really, but yes. I mean, does getting married make you officially a couple, bound to each other? Well, no, but yes. It's in your heart, you know. Let me explain. To practice this way, we sit Zazen. But Master Dogen and many of the other great Zen masters said that you know, the precepts are Zazen, and Zazen is also the precepts. What do they mean by that? Well, basically the precepts, as we're going to see in the coming weeks and months, is a vow to be gentle, to be kind, to be generous, to be nonviolent, to have a heart that is free of excess desire as best you can, and to abandon as best you can divided thinking like jealousy and resentments, that kind of thing. And you kind of need that to really get the fruit of Zazen. You know, if you're a mean, angry, greedy person and then go to practice Zazen, the tree is not going to blossom as beautifully as if you're someone who plants soil that's free of that anger, that's free of that excess desire. And you'll really taste the fruits of Zazen when you cultivate what the precepts are trying to point you to. A lot of modern people say that the precepts are kind of, what would you say? They're not rules, they're not laws. You're not going to get the electric chair if you violate one. They're not the 10 Commandments. I don't think that lightning is going to strike you if you violate one. In the old days, they would say the karma, man, if you violate one, you may come back as a puppy dog or a snake or something in the next life. I don't know about that. But I know that if you don't live free of excess desire and anger, you're going to have hell in your own heart. And you're going to make terrible hells for the people around you. We see that all over the world. People who do damage to themselves, people who do damage to their society, to their families, to their kids, because inside they're so filled with anger and greed and violence and division and jealousy, right? So I don't know about the hell in the next life, but I sure know about the hells in this one. And so the precepts, many modern teachers will say, are something like guidelines or arrows that point us in a good way, a healthy way, a beneficial way, not only beneficial to ourselves, but to those around us who are all united, you know. And that's what we're going to see in the coming weeks. So the precepts facilitate Zazen, and Zazen hopefully facilitates the precepts, because when we sit Zazen, the heart softens. We put down the anger, we put down the greed. So the precepts make Zazen more fruitful, and Zazen hopefully makes the precepts easier to live by. You see, it's a nice cycle there. And it makes all your life better. Would you rather live as a greedy, angry, selfish guy? We got a lot of that going on in the world these days, don't we? Or would you rather have a heart of peace, kindness, ease, not so jealous, content, you know? I'll go for the latter myself. That's what I'm doing here. Now, so why do you need the Jukai ceremony? Well, you know, if you're going to get married, you don't need a wedding. In other words, what I mean is, the wedding doesn't make you fall in love, and the wedding doesn't make you take a vow to be together through sickness and health till death do us part, right? The ceremony is just a celebration of that. Hopefully before the fact, you've fallen in love and you're committed to this person, right? I also sometimes say, you know, a birthday is a celebration of growing older and wiser. The birthday party itself doesn't make you older. You're going to get older anyway. The birthday party just celebrates that fact, and we gather together with our friends and loved ones to celebrate that we've become older and wiser. Well, the wedding ceremony too, hopefully, is a celebration and an affirmation of what is already there. So if you're serious about this Buddha way, you're going to make a kind of not a kind of, you're going to make a vow in your heart. I want to practice this way. I want to stick with this way. I want to live in this direction. I want to learn about the Buddhist teachings. I want to commit to my fellow practitioners because we support each other. That's Sangha. I want to commit, a vow of commitment, a vow to stick with it, right? So can you hear? Hello, hello? Okay. I don't know where we dropped off there, so I'm just going to jump back real quick. To practice this way, we make a vow to ourselves to live in a good way, to study the teachings, to help the other sentient beings. We want to do this, commit to this, and okay, we're back again. Sekishi, later, splice this all together, okay? Do something. Take 3. We're the only Sangha that has takes, you know. All right? Take 3. As I was saying, there's a vow here. We're vowing, just like in a good wedding, to commit to each other, to stick with it, to learn this Buddhist way, to help the other sentient beings in this case, to be part of a family, right? The Sangha members, we support each other. So there's a vow. So if hopefully you're already living by the precepts, and hopefully you've already made the vow to keep going and to help others, to learn. So if you've done those things, the Jukai is a celebration of what already is, just like the wedding is a celebration of what is. The wedding is not going to make a good marriage, but a good relationship will make the wedding. Just like your good sense of practicing with sincerity makes the Jukai. So does the Jukai ceremony make you a real Buddhist? Hopefully you're walking the Buddha's way, you see. And the ceremony just celebrates that. Okay. So today is our first day of the Joukai season, and you're going to be looking and reflecting on the meaning of all this in the coming weeks. And you don't have to commit until the day, you know, the 5 minutes before the ceremony. You can decide you're out the door. This is also a process to find out what this means to you, right? Just like you can, you know, like in the movie The Graduate, you can run out of the, you know, the ceremony and catch the bus and get out of there. I'm not obligating you. No guilt trips here if you decide not to take part in the Joukai. This is for you. So you can find the meaning of these precepts. You can find the meaning of the ceremony in the coming weeks as we sow the Raksu, as we reflect on the different precepts. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Master Dogen said about the meaning of all this in something he wrote many hundreds of years ago called Jukai, Shobogenzo Jukai. And he laid out in there basically the same ceremony we're going to be doing in January. Now, the ceremony, you may know, is really the same ceremony for lay people or the ordination of a priest. The words and the rituals are almost the same. In Japanese Zen Buddhism, the vows that a priest takes to become a priest and the vow of a layperson taking the JUKAI ceremony, what we call the lay ordination or undertaking the precepts as a layperson, are the same bodhisattva precepts. What's the difference? The difference is really the lifestyle that the particular practitioner needs. Some people will say, take the vow about not misusing sexuality, for example, and say, I'm going to be a celibate monk in a monastery. Other people will say, I'm going to be a married husband or wife and father or mother to children. They take the same vow in our way. Some people may need to go to the monastery and live removed from the society a little more. Some people practice in the heart of the society. What's the difference? Now, you may think that the fellow, it could be a woman, man, in the monastery is more serious as a practitioner than the layperson, because they've given up everything and they've gone to the monastery and they've cut off all ties and they don't have a day job like you do and they don't have kids. They're just in the monastery doing Buddhism 24/7. So they're more serious than you are. Dogen Zenji and even the Buddha, surprisingly, were not quite always saying that. Let me explain. That image is not completely right. The Dogen sometimes said to lay people, there is absolutely no difference between practice in the world and practice in the monastery. He's quoted in Bendowa saying that people who think that practice is only in the monastery, not in the world, don't know that there's no place that the Buddha is not. A few years later, Dogen was always, the kind of guy who was, he's kind of like some of our politicians sometimes, I have to say honestly. He knew his audience. If he was talking to monks, he would say, monks, man, that's the way to go. Not those lay people. And he was talking to lay people, he'd go, oh, lay people, that's the way to go. So Dogen sometimes gave talks. Maybe his mood changed because he was in the monastery, he was in Eiheiji, he was in the boondocks of Japan, living with these monks day in, day out. And he told the monks, monks, you got to be monks. Monks is serious practice. But you know what? The Buddha and Dogen actually said that the monks have to be monks because they need help. They need to get it away. They can't survive in the world. As that the world, practicing the world, the Buddha said, is not impossible. He said that's the dusty practice, the hard way. The easy way is to cut yourself off from that. If this practice is true, that being in the world of samsara, this ordinary crazy world, is enlightenment, then where you are in your job, with your kids, with dealing with the traffic and the taxes and the crazy boss, is as much the Buddha as being in the monastery and dealing with the incense and the crazy monk boss and the paperwork that they had to do. Don't you think you go to the monastery, you escape the government paperwork? They got to pay their taxes kind of too. I mean, there's a lot of administrative bookkeeping when you're in the monastery. It's a company, you see. Your ANGO is a real ANGO. Last year I gave a talk on ANGO, and it's very interesting, Dogen's talk on ANGO. I just want to mention this briefly. Dogen goes on for 15 or 20 pages of the most detailed procedures for monks in a monastery to spend their 3-month ANGO period. But at the end, he adds a little escape clause. He tells a story. The story is about Manjushri, who shows up on the last day of ANGO out of the blue. You know, everyone's been sitting ANGO. Manjushri walks in the door the last day and says, "I'm here." And Mahakashapa, who was kind of a tight butt, says, "What are you showing up the last day? You can't do that. You're supposed to be here the whole time." And he grabs a hammer and he's going to knock it. It means you're out. Get out the door. You're expelled. And the Buddha suddenly appears and says, "Mahakashapa, cool it." Manjushri was doing his ANGO wherever he was. And at that moment, a vision appears, like we've been talking about emptiness, a vision of worlds upon worlds. And in this vision, there's endless Mahakashapas trying to expel countless Manjushris. And countless Manjushris are doing their ANGO in endless places and worlds. In other words, there's no place where the ANGO is not. According to some of the interpretations, Manjushri was actually sitting his ANGO in places like a rich man's house and even a bar, or a bawdy house, as they would say. And I forget what the third place was. It was something like a marketplace. He was out in the world doing his ANGO. Dogen put that in there to say that ANGO too is not just what goes on in the monastery. ANGO, and maybe in a sense, the endless ANGO, the universal ANGO, is everywhere, you see. So don't think that just because you're home, this is not a real JUKAI. These are not real precepts. Don't think that just because you're home, this is not a true ANGO. Okay. Now let's see what Dogen had to say. Shobogenzo JUKAI. In the western heavens and the eastern lands, you know, they always got to talk. They can't say anything straight here. That means India and China. By the way, we have someone here from India? Am I missing? No? Okay. I thought we have a couple of Indian members now, and I thought possibly one of them was going to join us today. In the western heavens and the eastern lands, wherever the transmission has passed between Buddhist patriarchs, at the beginning of entering the Dharma, there is inevitably the receiving of the precepts. Number one, I have to apologize. This is my teacher's translation from the 1970s and 80s, and apparently we're still a little sexist back then. You notice they used the word patriarchs. I'm going to try, maybe I'll miss a few. Let's just change this to ancestors, anywhere it appears. You know, we've now recognized that this was a bit of a boys' club, picking up the conservative values of the Western heavens and the Eastern lands, which were very conservative, male-oriented societies. But there was a lot of women there too. Said and unsaid, known and unknown. So let's just say, this transmission has passed between Buddhist ancestors. And at the beginning of entering the Dharma, there is inevitably the receiving of the precepts. By some interpretations, you don't take the precepts after you've been practicing a while. You should take them at the beginning. It's the best start. Really, you can take the precepts anytime, and you can take them countless times. I've said that I know people who take them every year, like you celebrate a birthday every year. You can renew your marriage vows anytime you want. Renew them every day. There's no limit to the number of times you can do this. And some people say that, you know, the precepts is actually enlightenment itself, just like our Zazen is enlightenment itself. When we sit Zazen, there's not one thing to attain. There's not one other place to go. Some interpretations say when you take the precepts, all the precepts are realized. There's no precept broken, and everything is in perfect working order. So taking the precepts is actually the fulfillment of your vows, too. You see. Many ways to look at this. Now, Dogen said, without receiving the precepts, we are never the disciples of the Buddhas and never the descendants of the ancestral masters, because they have seen departing from excess and guarding against wrong as practicing Zazen and inquiring into the truth. Now, again, I don't think he's talking necessarily about the ceremony, but without, in our heart, undertaking the precepts and committing to the vow. Yes, we're not true students. We're not truly walking this way. So this is very important. It is vital to this way that we depart from excess and guard against wrong. It's vital that we practice Zazen and find the truth. You see, that's what he's saying. He continues, the words, the precepts are foremost, already are the right Dharma treasury itself. To realize Buddha and become an ancestor inevitably is to receive and maintain the right Dharma eye treasury. Therefore, ancestral masters who receive the authentic transmission of the right Dharma eye treasury inevitably receive and maintain the Buddhist precepts. Zazen is realization, is truth, is the Buddha's truth. It is everything. There is nothing left out. Zazen is the precepts. The precepts are the Buddhist truth. There's nothing left out. There cannot be a Buddhist ancestor who does not receive and maintain the Buddhist precepts. I think Dogen thought these precepts were pretty important. He was a pretty straight guy, you know. You can't sit Zazen and go out and rob banks and be a hitman and sell drugs that hurt people. Notice I said sell drugs that hurt people. I'm not saying these days, again, I leave this to people's heart. If someone engages in harmless behavior, that's one thing. If you're pushing heroin or crack, that's another, okay? There are degrees of doing harm. Dogen was a pretty straight guy. He probably would have been zero tolerance. But in this modern world, I'm going to say that the precepts are pointing us towards behavior that is not harmful, that is beneficial. And if you, let's say, practice Zazen and then go out and, you know, hurt people and steal and cheat, man, you're off base. Maybe you think, oh, the Zazen's helping me, because in the Zazen, you know, we drop right and wrong, don't we? It seems like there's a certain amorality to Zazen, because we're sitting there going, there's no right, there's no wrong. There's no failings. Everything is just what it is. And that can lead someone actually to a kind of amorality. It's very dangerous. There have been, for example, dictators and even serial killers who practiced some kind of meditation. There was a fellow in Norway, I think, who was a big meditator, and then he went out and killed people because the meditation helped him focus his heart to do violence, you see. That's the dark side, like in Star Wars. We got a couple of people sitting here looking like they got hoodies on. Are you on the dark side, man? You look like the guys from Star Wars with the things over your head. There you go. Hey, okay. I was just kidding. I know you're not on the dark side. But there is a dark side. The precepts keep us on the good side. Zazen can go bad. Zazen is very formless, you see. You could go out and use the Zazen to be a better bank robber. So Master Dogen is warning us not to do that. I'm going to continue. Some will receive and maintain them under the Tathagata, the Buddha, which in every instance is to have received the lifeblood. When you take the precepts, you're going to be receiving them directly from the Buddha and all the ancestors. That's what Dogen's trying to say here. What they received, which is this truth, this lifeblood, is now going to flow to you. The Buddhist precepts now authentically transmitted from Buddha to Buddha and from ancestor to ancestor were exactly transmitted only to the ancestor Bodhidharma. And then they were transmitted 5 times in China until they received our founding ancestor, Soke Huineng, the 6th ancestor, very famous. And then it split off in various directions through Seigen and Nangaku, and so has been conveyed to the present day, and they will be conveyed to you. And then Dogen in his way says, now there are some unreliable old veterans and the like who do not know this at all. They are most pitiful. I'm going to be a little Brad Warner here. Brad Warner would say something like, so there are these old dudes who think, you know, that they know everything and they say this isn't important. They're a bunch of fill in the blanks. Okay, that's was Dogen's way of saying. You got to know the precepts are really important. That we receive the Buddhist Bodhisattva precepts, this is the beginning of entering the Dharma. And it's just what practitioners should know. The observance in which we should receive the Bodhisattva precepts is authentically transmitted in every case by those who have long learned in practice in the inner sanctum of the Buddhist ancestors. Dogen didn't pull any punches. It is not accomplished by negligent and lazy people. You got to be serious about this, you know. I don't say you have to be obsessive, but you got to be serious enough to practice this every day and try to make this gentleness, this peace, this lack of anger part of your life every day. It cannot be accomplished by negligent and lazy people. In that observance, in every case, we burn incense and perform prostrations before the ancestral master and ask to receive the Bodhisattva precepts. Once granted permission, we bathe and purify ourselves and put on new and clean clothes, or we may wash our existing clothes, then scatter flowers, burn incense, perform prostrations, and show reverence, and then put them on. I'd like to talk a little bit about prostrations. When we do the ceremony, there's a lot of bowing. You bow to your parents. Even if you had some difficulties with them, you say, parents, thanks for letting me be here on the planet Earth. You bow to your teachers. You bow to the whole world. You bow to that piece of wood that's up there that represents the Buddha. Why? Just gratitude. Gratitude and thanks and a vow to give back. To make this world better. When we prostrate, a lot of Westerners, you know, in Asia, people are bowing all the time, man. They're just bowing all the time. Sometimes they get down, unbelievable. They like throw themselves, you know, completely on the ground, bowing. In the West, you know, we don't like this. Could you imagine like some of our Western politicians suddenly getting down and bowing to everyone? You know, no way, man. We're a handshake at most, maybe a salute. So what's a vow? A vow is humility. A vow is humility. I vow because it makes me humble. And, you know, we're bowing down to Buddha in a sense, but the Buddha is actually raising us up. We bow to the world in gratitude, but the world is actually raising us up. So it depends how you look at it. Are we going down or are we being lifted? I'll leave that there with you. Bowing, prostrations are a beautiful practice. And even if you don't get down all the way, if just a gasho like this is a beautiful practice of gratitude and humility. And and just vowing to give back. Okay? So anyway, where was I? Widely, we perform prostrations to the statues and images, which, as I said to me, statues and images to me are a reminder of what we're grateful for and this truth in these teachings, right? That there's no magic power in there except what I put in there in my heart, which is just remembering the truth of these teachings and the power of this way that represents. And so when I'm bowing, it looks like I'm bowing to that there. That's a reminder to me of all this. That's what I'm bowing to. We perform prostrations to the three treasures, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And we'll talk about that in a second. And we perform prostrations to the venerable ancestors. We say thanks to the family and all who came before. Now, we don't know exactly who those people were, but thank you for making this way possible for us. Just thank you. Whoever you were, who have given us this tradition, thank you. We get rid of miscellaneous hindrances, and thus we are able to make body and mind pure. Those observances have long been authentically transmitted in the inner sanctum of the Buddhist ancestors. After that, at the practice place, the presiding Acharya, that's the preceptor, that will be me in the ceremony, the person who gives the precepts, who represents all this, instructs the receiver to do these prostrations, to kneel upright and with palms together to speak these words. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Amongst the first discussions we'll have in our precept preparations is, what does this mean? I take refuge. Some people coming from a Christian background, they get really hung up on this. Man, anything that sounds like Christianity, man, it just sets off my alarm bells. It's a word. It's a safe place. It's something, it's a shelter. It's something that keeps you safe and tries to help you. It's a refuge. It's a, whatever you want to call it. I take refuge in the Buddha. That means the man who started all this, but also the whole truth of the universe. The Dharma, the teachings, and the whole truth of the universe. And the Sangha, the whole community which supports all this. And then we get into the precepts themselves. And I'll close with the first three that we take, which kind of summarize all the other precepts in microcosm. Number one, to seek as you can in this body and life to avoid doing harm. To seek as you can in this body and life to live in a healthful and helping way, doing good. To seek as you can in this body and life to live for the benefit of all sentient beings. That's the wording I've developed here at Tree Leaf, but I believe it's basically in harmony with the traditional way of saying this, which is don't do bad, do good, and help others. And all the precepts come back to that. You see, don't do harm to yourself and others. Yourself and others, man, it's one great thing. Do good. Live in a beneficial way for yourself and others. And try to help the others, which is helping yourself. I'm not going to try to fill in the details too much right now because you have weeks to reflect on this and to find the meaning for yourself. So I'll just leave it there. I just wanted to say, ANGO has begun. JUKAI has begun. This is the real thing, man. It's right where you sit. It's how you live every day. If I just gave you some advice, is avoid doing harm. Try to be good. Help others. That's it. And then the rest is just the party. Okay. Some of my priests here have a question. You can either ask a question for yourself, or maybe if you remember the kind of question we're often asked about JUKAI. Anything come to mind? Anyone have a question that we often hear? Kyonin.
Thanks, Jindo. It's not a question, it's commentary for others. when we are in ANGO and studying the precepts for Jukai, we often think we are making a lot of mistakes and that we fell off the wagon, and we are very afraid of being judged by others, or we judge ourselves pretty hard. And just want to say to everyone that enjoy the mistakes, enjoy the every single time you fall off the wagon, because that's human nature. That's how we learn, and that's how we grow, and that's how we embrace the Dharma, by testing the waters, by experimenting, by committing a lot of mistakes, and understanding that even if there's no mistake to be made, it's all part of the experience. So just relax, take it one instant, 1 second at a time.
What he said is just so important. I'm glad you reminded me of that. We break the precepts again and again because we're human beings. You reflect, you get up, you dust off, you try to make amends, you try to learn from your mistake, and you start again. Like the alcoholic who hits the bottle again after he's been in the AA for 10 years. It's day one, man. You do your best. You're going to fall down. Hopefully not fall down too badly. We don't intentionally let ourselves fall down, but you're going to fall down. You're a human being. And if you don't think this is important, I'm glad I get a chance to mention some of the scandals with some Buddhist teachers again. There's another Buddhist teacher, very famous one, who apparently got himself into a little trouble with his sexual behavior, and it's a scandal. This has happened a couple places. Don't think that you get enlightened, you turn into a saint, and you never have to worry about the precepts again. Even a teacher can fall down. That's why we need the precepts. And the teacher, hopefully, this fellow, who's very famous for his alcohol and drug treatment program that has saved countless people, but now he's made a mistake. Hopefully he's going to get up now and go, and today is day one. Okay? Don't try to fall down, and hopefully you don't fall down too badly, but if you do trip and stumble, which we all do, because you're a human being, don't expect perfection, man. You may like say, I'm not going to eat meat during this ANGO, and suddenly you look down and go, oh my gosh, that's a ham sandwich in my head. What was I thinking? I forgot. Okay, you're human. Put it down, get the cheese. All right, another question. Somebody, somewhere. Yes, Jakuden. I get to volunteer my students. Yes, Jakuden, I hear your urgent question. Go ahead.
Actually, Keonan actually said exactly what I was thinking about, falling off the wagon. And I just, I think that's the key to ANGO, is really just enjoying the experience and starting over every day. It seemed to me like there were long lists of commitments, you know, very ambitious lists of commitments people were making. But I would just say we're all here. If any of those things seem to be a lot and you're stumbling, remember, we're here for you. Nobody's like trying to make your life harder by doing this. This is supposed to be a refuge, you know, a time of reflection, and a time to come together as a sangha and be there with each other and support each other through it. So if things get hard, you know, that's part of ANGO too. I mean, if you really are struggling and, you know, everybody always gets to a point where they say life intervened, you know, and well, it's not that it intervened, that's what ANGO is, you know, it's just life doing its thing. And so instead of disappearing or, you know, beating yourself up and saying, well, I'm going to try this again next year, or you know, just come and share it with us, and, you know, share it in the thread, what you're going through, and let it be part of ANGO.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, we're not the religion that says, oh, I committed the sin, I'm going to beat myself on the back and, you know, with a whip. You know, we're not those people. We are making some vows to give up some things we love or some things we're attached to learn the value of giving up attachments a little bit, to simplify, to know that our likes and dislikes a little bit are more in our control than we realize, right? And to know the value of living a little bit free of the things we think we need in this world are really just the things we want. And what we really need is something different. So giving up the sweets, which I do every time, and sitting a little more and saying that I'm going to, this thing that I'm so attached to doing, I'm going to put it down for a few weeks or months, is good for the heart. But if you fall down and find yourself with the ham sandwich in your hand, despite your vow of vegetarianism, do not then grab a whip and start flagellating yourself. And then I'm giving up JUKAI. And then like the alcoholic who takes one drink, he says, oh, I broke my vow to have no drinks. And then he runs to the bar and drinks 3 bottles of scotch. You see, don't be that guy. You fell down a little, start again. It's no excuse to give up. Okay. Yeah, Shingen.
Thank you, Jindo. Also, I just want to kind of, it's supporting everything that everybody's also said, is also to find with the precepts there's not one right answer. So to allow them to blossom and flourish in your own life and how you experience them. And I'll just kind of give a little story. I remember years ago, we had a member who I did a practice partner exercise with. We were partners. And so we were discussing the precepts, and he's a police officer. And so one of the questions that came to my mind was, well, you know, we don't want to kill. And I thought, well, of course, he's a police officer. He might have to. So I asked him, and he said he really struggled with it at times because he thought, it seems to be kind of like I'm a hypocrite because I'm trying to save this life, but in order to save this life, I'm taking this life, or I'm hurting this person in order to save this person from being hurt. But he said eventually, as he went along the way, he found, I guess, the boundaries to his precept of not killing or not doing harm different than mine or somebody else's. But that doesn't mean that he's breaking the precepts, or that he's not as good at the precept of not killing or not hurting than me or somebody else. So I think, you know, my encouragement is not to worry that there is one answer, or this is the way you have to do the precepts. So allow them to flourish and bloom in your own life, and you'll kind of find this kind of universal boundary to how they apply.
And that is very important too. There are many religious practices on ethics try to spell out very much black and white what's right and wrong. And even in South Asian or continental Buddhism, you know, the monks would take 256 precepts, very specific about what not to do. And the Japanese Zen Buddhists, Dogen Zenji, boiled it down to 16 precepts that are very open. Now, what does it mean very open? There are some things that are pretty black and white. For example, I don't think there's anything that's black and white in the precepts about child abuse. There is nothing that says there's a certain situation where child abuse is okay. You know, maybe if you were a doctor and you had to temporarily cause pain to a child for medical treatment, there I'm already thinking of an example, but there's nothing about doing violence to a child that is permitted in the precepts, our precepts, anyone's precepts. However, as we go through the precepts, you will find that it is, I'm sorry, we're very much into situational ethics here. And what might be appropriate in one case, you have to ask, is it appropriate in all cases? And we're going to look at this. we say try not to kill, but a policeman might have to kill in order to actually save life. What about that? Don't steal. Right. What if your family's starving? We're going to look at these. And that's the process of the next few weeks. Okay. Any other urgent question? Otherwise, we're going to move on. Yes, Sekishi. Go.
Well, I don't have a question, but just to follow up with what everyone has said here. With this ANGO, and this is going to sound really silly in a way, is to enjoy it. We have a lot of things we're going to do. We're going to do, but we are taking refuge in this. This is our practice, our lives, and meeting them head on, and finding the good in that and enjoying that. And I'm going to abuse a Dogen quote a little bit. Dogen, it says somewhere in Shobogenzo that Shikantaza is not learning the art of meditation. It is the Dharma gate of joy and ease. And I feel like we can extrapolate from that and try to do that with our ANGO, is find some joy and some ease, even while we wish we had that candy bar or the thing that you gave up. Enjoy that moment of wanting the candy bar and not having it, or meeting with your partner and bowing to all the things that come up in your life that are complicated, and just meet it head on. And it's a beautiful thing, and I hope we can all enjoy it.
Beautifully said. There really is a party, and there's nothing about this that has to be painful. Quite the opposite. This is supposed to be freeing and liberating and joyful and bringing you peace and goodness and kindness and openness and a good life in your heart. Right? That's what this is about. So let's get on with the party. Okay. Hey, every good party, we got to move on. All right? Kyonin, can we have the verse to close the sutras?
May the merits of these teachings penetrate into each thing in all places, so that we and every sentient being together may realize the Buddha's way. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Maha Prashna Paramita.
Okay, now there is a time in this practice to practice a little more intently, to realize there's nothing to attain. That's what ANGO is about. We add a little bit more oomph to our practice to realize that it's all right here. And there's a time to realize that it's not about time at all. There is no long and short. So now we will sit our super short Zazen, which is also all time and is timeless. Ready? Zazen, ready? Here we go. Thank you. Okay. You don't realize that. That was endless time right there in that moment of Zazen. Now we're going to have a little kinhin for a few moments. And then any first timers here? You've been here before to our Zazen? No? Okay. So you are familiar with our sacred ritual of, in Sanskrit, it's called the Hokey Pokey. You are familiar with this. All right. But first, a little kinhin. It's Hokey Pokey time. Now, every once in a while, I like to just pick one, and here I got quite a choice here. We go with the line dance remix, the dubstep everything Hokey Pokey, or the Puppies Hokey Pokey Urban Street remix. Boy, oh boy, I think we're gonna go with the dubstep everything. What do you think? Dubstep everything? Okay, I have no idea what this is. If it's sacrilegious, I really apologize. Here we go. Okay, that was very good. We thank you to the dubstep everything Hokey Pokey. It was lovely. Here's the off button for that one. Okay, very good. That was pretty good. All right. Zazen. Can't hit. We will now recite the metaverses and then a little zazen. Make yourself comfortable. We said that Jukai and Ango can be comfortable. Well, this, should be comfortable too. Got a little closer here, make myself a little more personable. Way over there last time. Can you hear okay? All right. The metaverses are also a practice that has appealed to many Zen practitioners in recent years because it also softens the heart, makes us generous, focuses us on the concerns and well-being of other sentient beings, not only ourselves. We're not sitting zazen for ourselves. We're really sitting for all sentient beings. And this practice is for everyone. Some people ask me, the metaverses now, is this some kind of magic hocus pocus hooey wooey that you're always talking about? I thought you're against all that. You're supposed to be the great Dharma skeptic, Jundo, right? And I always say to people, well, this passes my test because I know that it has an effect on us and on others and in this interconnected world, maybe someone on the other side of the planet. As I always say, if somebody is angry, dashes off an email, or does violence on one part of the planet, very often travels all the way to the other side of the planet and hurts somebody, affects someone, makes us all feel ugly. It makes us all feel pain. So the opposite is also true these days. If I'm wishing metta for someone in my family or a friend who's way on the other side of the planet, is this going to travel through the cosmic telegraph lines and somehow get to them? I like to hope so. Yeah, maybe the power of prayer, what people are always talking about. I'm not going to say no, but at the very least, I know it's going to clean my heart, soften my heart. It's going to make me a nicer father or husband in my family here. And in this interconnected world, look at this, who I'm talking to. Got people in Mexico here, in Canada, and Europe, and right? So anything I say here, if I were to say something like really mean right now, like, hey, you guys, right? That's going to travel the other side of the world, right? Shingen, you're ugly. Kyonin, I ever tell you I can't stand you? Jakuden, get out of here, right? You feel it, right? Way on the other side of the world. So now I'm going to say words of peace and kindness. By the way, I didn't mean any of that. Shingen, you're beautiful. Kyonin, you don't go anywhere. Jakuden, however I meant it. But, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. If I say words of peace and kindness, it's going to literally right now travel in our incredibly worldwide universal Sangha, the tree leaf, the tree that reaches everywhere. It's going to travel and reach all these people. So these words really do have an effect right now, all over the world, okay? So we begin with ourselves, then someone we love in our family, then what's next? A friend, then a passing stranger. Am I getting this right? And then a difficult person. That's the hard one. We can include politicians, yes. And then all sentient beings everywhere. And as I always say, not only on this planet, all planets, we want to keep the space aliens happy when they come. Okay, so all planets. Now, I will talk us through this a bit. Okay. It's okay to begin with ourselves. We're a sentient being too. That's why we begin with ourselves. Peace starts at home. May I be free of suffering, truly letting go all the craving, the excess desire, the worries about tomorrow and that thing yesterday. Let it go. And the anger, the jealousy, why do I need that? May I be free of suffering. Put it down. May I feel safe. Through the Zen practice, even in this dangerous world, we can feel safe in our hearts. May I feel still. In all the running around, we can know stillness in our hearts. There's a safety, a refuge through Zazen. That's not a matter of anything that anyone can threaten. Nothing can be lost. Safety. And there's a stillness that doesn't matter the chaos we're living in. So let me start again on this. May I be free of suffering. May I feel safe and still. May I be free of enmity. Enmity means anger and hate. May I be loving. No explanation needed. May I be grateful and kind. As I often said, our Zen gratitude includes the stuff we're usually not grateful for. All of it. Even the things we did not want life to serve us. We're grateful. May I be healthy. And the and is there because sometimes we're not healthy. All of us, we're human beings. May I be healthy and at ease in all my ills. Being sick is one thing. Not wanting to be sick and not accepting it, not feeling gratitude for all of it is another. May I be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. All of it. Okay? Now for someone in our family, someone we love, you have someone in mind? It's okay if it's more than one person. So I'm going to do a they. May they be free of suffering. Really feel it. Really feel it. You really wish this, right? May they feel safe and still. May they be free of enmity. May they be loving, grateful, and kind. May they be healthy and at ease in all their ills. May they be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay? Now, a friend. Got somebody in mind? May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay. Now a passing stranger, maybe someone we barely know. Just yesterday, the glass door on our oven broke in the house, right? I didn't even know that was possible. So the man has just come to fix it. I don't know who he is. Just very grateful he's here, but that's not the reason I'm going to chant this. Just going to chant for him because I don't know who he is. But we help each other in this world, don't we? May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. There he goes. You can hear the motor? There he goes. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. Better call it so he hears it. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Now the hard one. Someone difficult in our lives or the world. With this thought, I often have to explain this, that if they truly knew peace in their heart, they wouldn't be so. I have chanted enough for political leaders, so I'm going to pick somebody else this time, but truly this would be a better world if everyone, the people causing troubles, knew peace and health and contentment in their heart, then they probably would not act in such a way. That's the idea behind it. Okay? Okay, I've got one. Right. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. May he be healthy in mind and body, and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. And now for all sentient beings, we're all in this together. We're all in the lifeboat. And as you heard me talk, the lifeboat is one. I am the lifeboat. You are the lifeboat. We help each other in the lifeboat. I am you rowing the oar, or you are me rowing the oar. Right? So we're chanting for all sentient beings. Let's include in this world of environmental degradation the mountains and rivers. Master Dogen said we can include them too. May they be free of suffering. May we be free of suffering. May we feel safe and still. May we be free of enmity. May we be loving, grateful, and kind. May we be healthy. That includes the rivers and the mountains. And at ease in all our ills. May we be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. That's just one of the practices we kind of encourage or recommend for folks to try during ANGO. It's good for the heart. It is. It softens it, right? We certainly go enough during the day going, I hate that guy drives me, that guy. How about we go, I love you, man. I love you. Go, man. Peace to you. Peace, man. We don't have to turn into a bunch of hippies. I mean, peace. Mean it. All right. This is the time of day when Jundo starts to get a little crazy. You know, this is the early morning for me. I get started here. I had 3 hours sleep last night for various reasons. So Jundo takes no responsibility for whatever he says the last 30 minutes of Zazen. Please remember that. That's a, we're going to put that as a rider to all our future Zazenkai. Okay. Shall we sit one last short-ish Zazen, and then we'll close with the Versatomen and the 4 vows at the end. All right? That's it. You can just sit where you are. We will now recite the verse of atonement and the 4 vows. As soon as I can get up. That may take about 10 minutes. Okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that, guys. I just knocked you over. Here you go.
All harmful words, thoughts, and acts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all. To save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way unattainable.
Lovely, lovely. Thanks for coming to the party. Remember, practice just like Shingen's beautiful teaching of sewing. You make a mistake, it's a mistake. Fix what you can, move forward. That's all of ANGO, all of our JUKAI, okay? Just go with that philosophy and enjoy every minute of it. All right? I'll see you guys later. Lovely. Bye, guys. Jakuden, I love you. I was just kidding before. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jundo.
See you.